Hi, Bridget from 100 Miles North. I'm here with Andrew Faust and our friend Carly, and we are getting a garden started today. And Andrew's going to talk us through some of these amendments that we have on site to get the season started well. Tell us a little bit, Andrew, about these.
So these amendments are, I sort of use them in a fairly laissez-faire manner because I think that it's good to just have an approach with these materials that you don't get too hung up about all of the details or exactly how much of what amount. So I want to say that, kind of characterizing these right off the bat, going into explaining for folks how do these amendments work, why we're choosing which one of them, that it's really about recommending to you ones that are easy for you to find, easy to work with as a gardener, because they don't tend to spike your soils in any really substantial ways, but they're what we would call a broad feeder. So like broad feeding soil amendments are typically, we're referring there to soil building, and that's gonna have a more lasting input role as well in soils. There's a whole school of thought that you can dive deep into on growers who focus heavily on what's called remineralization, which is a lot of what these amendments we're gonna look at here are geared from and informed by this perspective that really takes a long view from a geological perspective and looks at soils from the viewpoint of how long did it take for the landscape where you are to accumulate the kind of natural fertility that it had, and what may have happened over time that could have disturbed that and caused a lot of that to disappear. Right, so within the landscapes where we are, the perspective is that the whole landscape has been scraped by glaciers first, like as recently as 30 to 40,000 years ago. And that sometimes has a major geologic influence on how many minerals are where in the landscape. That's why we see a lot of sand and potato farming in Long Island and places like that, because it was at the tail end of the glacial ecology or geology. And so, you know, these minerals are broad feeders. They are informed by the viewpoint also that a lot of the fertility has left the land from farming and agriculture and overuse over the last several hundred years, and deforestation. And so in the Northeast, we see a long legacy of that, you know, centuries of deforestation and degradation from a soil health viewpoint. A vast amount of soil has been lost, and a vast amount of trace minerals and micronutrients. And ultimately, human health is dependent upon these being available in the foods that we eat. And this is why, you know, in our courses, we're teaching about how to apply biointensive, biodynamic remineralization, because these skills are key to really long-term health of people in any landscape. And so they're easily available natural fertilizers that are soil builders and can often be done on like a biannual or even like a triannual basis. They're not a yearly supplement per se, but they're informed by this understanding of how do we supplement soils in a way that really builds soil health and the nutritional value of what you're cultivating in it, and to add these materials in, you know, as I said, relatively laissez-faire amounts, meaning they're forgiving amendments. They're not ones that you need to be shy of as a beginner grower, because they're gonna suddenly cause everything in your beds to die because you over-nutrified it.